Hello everyone. How are you? So good to be back at All Things Open. I'm Angie Jones. I'm the head of developer relations for TBD, which is Block's business unit that's focused on open source technologies. I have a question for you all. Has anyone here ever ordered alcohol from a delivery app? Show of hands. Okay, can someone describe to us what your process was like?
I'll do it.
Okay, Kurt.
Yeah, so I had to place the order, and then they came and delivered it, and I had to show them my ID at the door. That's how it works in Virginia. And they could scan my physical ID.
Okay, so Kurt said that he ordered from the delivery app. They came to drop it off. The delivery driver needed to scan his ID, and then you were good to go, right? Okay, all right, yeah, that's about the process. No matter if you're buying in person or in line, there's two things you're gonna need when you purchase alcohol online. What are those two things? ID and money, folks. It's not free, all right? So you're gonna need money and ID. But when buying in person, you can easily provide both of these things. However, like Kurt mentioned, if you buy online, there's a bit of a snag because we figured out how to accept ID online, money online, but not ID, especially not our physical IDs in a digital way. So typically these normal checks are skipped and the order is placed and paid for. The poor delivery driver is now on the hook to check your ID when they get there. If they happen to forget to do this, because remember, they have a couple of orders in the car, they may forget to check your ID. If they do, they could face serious consequences, right? Because this is mandated by law. So they could face fines, they're surely going to lose their job, the delivery company might be liable, as well as the vendor, the liquor store that sold you the liquor, right? Now, let's say that the delivery person does remember, like in Kurt's case, to verify the age, but not in Kurt's case. The person is like a minor or doesn't have an ID. Well, now we've just wasted a lot of time here, right? The delivery driver has to leave. They have to return the liquor back to the store. The delivery company has to process a refund, which they need to get from the vendor themselves. So as you can see, this is quite a risky transaction. Fortunately, there is a way to handle this digitally. So I live in Louisiana, and we are one of 13 states in the U.S. that have a mobile driver's license. Anyone here heard of a mobile driver's license? Okay, great. Anyone here have a mobile driver's license? Nobody? Okay, one guy in the back. Okay, two guys, okay. All right. So these are up and coming, right? And my mobile driver's license serves as a digital ID, and it's held in a secure digital wallet on my phone. And this wallet is connected to the Louisiana government system. So it's able to pull my latest data in real time. And because they have access to my real-time official government data, they're able to prove things about me, such as that I'm of legal drinking age. So here's how the scenario changes with a mobile driver's license. So the customer uses the app to order the alcohol. The app would then request from them a proof of age. So the customer could share a credential with the app that's provided by that mobile driver's license app, and that credential can then be verified by both the delivery app company as well as the vendor, the alcohol store. ABC is what y'all call it here, right? Yeah. So they see that it was issued by the Louisiana Mobile Driver's License app, and they trust this entity because they know that my Louisiana mobile app has access to the government data. So now with this proof, they can confidently deliver the alcohol. They don't need to burden the poor delivery driver with such an important task. Also, if that digital proof is not valid, then the order simply wouldn't be processed. So you're not wasting time delivering the order and processing refunds. So how's this done exactly? Well, it's using JOTs, which are JSON Web Tokens. How many people are familiar with JOTs? Okay, most people. Anyone want to tell us what you typically see JOTs used for? Authentication. I didn't plant Kurt here, I promise. But yes, they're typically used for authentication. For those not familiar, I'll give you like a quick, brief recap of like what they are. So a JOT is this secure string representation of claims that can be shared between two parties. And we typically see them used on websites to authenticate users, right? So where the user might log in, the server then sends a JOT to the client who then can present that JOT with future requests so that the server doesn't have to re-authenticate you every time you make a request. So given these characteristics, this technology makes the perfect choice to implement the open W3C standard that's called Verifiable Credentials, okay? Verifiable credentials are a special type of JOT. They can be used for more than just authenticating to websites. They can be used pretty much for anything, such as proving your age, which is how I was able to buy booze with one of these bad boys. So just like JOTs, verifiable credentials are cryptographically signed JSON. They have three parts. We have the header. That's going to indicate what type of JOT it is, as well as the cryptographic algorithms that are used to sign and verify the JOT's authenticity. Then you're going to have a payload. This is where the actual claims are expressed in JSON. So this is the magic right here, because pretty much anything can be expressed in JSON. And then the final part here is the cryptographic signature of the person or the organization that issued this JOT. Now let's double click inside of that payload. I want you to see what a verifiable credential would look like. So it's going to contain the type of credential it is. So notice here, this is an array. It can be multiple types. You always want to have verifiable credential as one of the types, and then you can put whatever else you want. For the credential that I talked about, they named this one age over 21 credential. Okay. Also, you're going to have the issuer's ID. So who issued this? You'll see their identifier, and then when it was issued, and then the claims about who it was issued to. So notice here we have this object that's just saying, okay, it was issued to this ID, and the claims being made here is over 21 equals true. Now, pay attention here, because I'm going to give you a quiz. There's three actors involved in a verifiable credential flow, which is called a presentation exchange. So you have an issuer. The issuer is the person or the company, the business, the entity that creates the credential and issues it to someone or something or some company, right? Who they are issuing to is the holder. So the holder is the person or the business or the entity that holds the credential and who the claims are about. And then the verifier is the entity that accepts the credential and then verifies its legitimacy. All right? Y'all ready for the quiz? Are y'all ready for the quiz? All right. So in the scenario I described with the alcohol delivery, which actor does the customer play? And I'm going to do show of hands here. So how many people say the customer is the issuer? Okay. How many say the holder? Lots of hands. How many say the verifier? How many of you just don't know? You're on the edge of your seat waiting for the answer. Okay, all right. So the customer is going to be the holder. They are the ones that hold the credentials in their wallet. They're the ones that the claims are about. So in the case of the delivery app, I would be the holder of the credential. Okay? Which actor does the delivery app play? How many say the issuer? How many say the holder? The verifier? Okay, y'all are great. Okay, yes, the delivery app is the verifier. They're the ones who are requesting proof of my age, and they will verify that this is legitimate. Okay? How about the license app, my mobile driver's license app? Is it the issuer? How about the holder? How about the verifier? I see folks rubbing their chins. So the license app is going to be the issuer. So the license app is the one that is connected to the government data. They're the source, or connected to that source of truth, and so they can make a claim saying, yes, she's over 21. Last one. How about the vendor, the ABC store? Is this the issuer, the holder, the verifier? Yes, they are a second verifier, right? So remember, if I'm ordering alcohol online, the company that's delivering to me needs to make sure that they're not delivering to a minor, and also the company that's selling to me needs to make sure they're not selling to a minor. So we have two verifiers in this case. Great job. Okay, so the Louisiana Wallet app has access to my data, but verifiable credentials are a privacy-preserving technology. If I had to show the delivery person my ID, they get a lot of information on me, right? I want you to think about this scenario. This typically goes over really well with the ladies. So think about that I'm going out tonight to a club, a little after party situation, right? And I'm in line, I want to get in the club, and the bouncer is at the front kind of giving me googly eyes, right? And so when I get to the bouncer for them to let me in, you have to be 21 or older, so they say, let me see your ID. Now, this creepy guy, I have to show him my physical ID, which has my full name, my home address, right? My date of birth, the full thing, my weight, oh my God, right? So so much information that I'm sharing with someone who doesn't need to know all of this, right? So in this case, when I mean privacy preserving, remember that credential we see here. My date of birth is not here. It's only saying yes. This is a Boolean flag. She is over 21. That's all you need to know. So that's all the information that we're going to share. So I'm using the Web5 open source SDK here to create a verifiable credential that would resemble the one that was issued by my mobile driver's license app. And the type is set to age over 21 credential. This can be set to anything, but we do need some standardization here so that verifiers know what to look for. And we'll talk about that in a bit. And then the credential also holds those decentralized IDs for both the entity who is issuing the credential, again, that would be the mobile driver's license app, and then also it shows the ID of the holder. Holder is sometimes also called subject. So if I say subject, you know I mean the holder. That would be who the credential is about. So again, that's me. And then the data section contains any claims that the issuer is making about the subject. So in this case, only one claim here that attests that the holder is over 21. And then the issuer would cryptographically sign the credential with their decentralized ID. So the decentralized ID contains both a public and a private key pair. And so you would sign this, and that's how you get that cryptographic signature there. The signature is how the verifiers can be certain that this credential actually came from a specific issuer, the issuer who they think it is, right? Because this ID is just a string. I could paste that there, even if I wasn't the proper issuer. But that signature is what's really going to stamp it, okay? With this, they also can tell that it hasn't been tampered with in any way. So that's the great thing about JOTs in general. If you try to modify that payload or anything like that, the whole thing is corrupted. So people know when it's been tampered with. Now, once it's signed, that's when we get the JOT. That's what's returned here. That lives with the customer. That's what's stored in my wallet, or it could also be stored on device. Is this recorded? I was going to tell y'all another story, but if I'm on tape, I can't tell it. I think I'm being recorded. I'll tell y'all at the break, okay? So when an entity like the ABC store or the delivery app requests a credential from your wallet app, they need to provide that app with a presentation definition. So that presentation definition is just a definition of the claims that would meet whatever requirements that they're looking for, right? And so in this case, the delivery and vendor companies request a credential that has a claim saying its name is over 21 and its value is true. Okay, and then the LA wallet would programmatically select the credential from my wallet that satisfies the definition. So again, unlike that physical ID where I need to share so much information about myself, that's not required with verifiable credentials. In fact, my mobile driver's license, some people think of it as like just a digital copy of an ID. Is not just a digital copy. It's so much more because of this verifiable credential technology and things like that. So they have a bunch of credentials about me stored in my LA Wallet app. You don't want to just give the whole kitchen sink over to a verifier and say, here, take whatever you need. We do want to preserve privacy. So this function, which is also a part of the Web 5 SDK, allows my wallet app to select the credentials that meet the definition that the verifiers provided here, okay? And because my mobile license app is a credible source, them vouching for me is enough proof. They don't need to know my exact date of birth. Now, you do want to think about, like, who issued this? Because like I said, this is an open source SDK. You can download it right now. You can issue yourself a credential as I speak that says you're the next president of the United States, right? But who are you to make such a claim? Now, when the delivery and the vendor companies receive my verifiable credential in the form of a JOT, they are going to verify it. So this function will verify the integrity and also the authenticity of the credential. So it ensures it hasn't been tampered with, it's not expired. Again, the IDs of the issuer and the holder are real, that they can be resolved, things like that. And once they know that the verifiable credential is a valid one, they can ensure that the claims that are contained within that credential actually satisfy the requirements that have been defined. Now, we don't just use verifiable credentials to buy booze. They can be used for just about anything. Colleges, universities, other training programs, we've begun to see them using verifiable credentials and issuing them as a digital form of a degree. So for example, MIT provides both that physical and digital forms of the diploma to its graduates. And I want you to think about how useful this is when a person has to undergo something like a background check, right? So as opposed to calling the university to make sure like this candidate did in fact graduate from here with a degree that they're claiming, anyone who needs to verify this information can simply request the verifiable credential from MIT. Like just submit that, which has MIT's decentralized identifier, so they know that it came from MIT. Right? And this can all be done programmatically, so it greatly speeds up the process. Funny story, when I was starting this job that I'm in now, my background check took a little longer. And so we had an expected start date. I gave notice to my other job, but then since the background check hadn't cleared yet, I was essentially unemployed for a week in between there, right? So that means like no money coming in. And I like money coming in, you know? So we definitely want to expedite these things. I also want you to imagine like these credentials being issued for like completion of a certification or something, for example. Like I'm certified in Java. It would be really cool to put that on like my LinkedIn profile as a certified like skill or award or something like that, and maybe even allow hiring managers to search for people who have that. And speaking of hiring managers, We're starting to see verifiable credentials issued to prove employment history as well. So these can be issued by employers themselves or even other credible sources like Workday or an employment verification agency. Again, that's the thing. Anyone can issue the credentials, so you want to make sure it's a credible source that's actually making the claim. And verifiers must determine which issuers they're willing to accept verifiable credentials from about certain claims. So this could even be specified in that presentation definition I showed you, where they were defining the claims that they're expecting. They could also give an array of IDs of entities that they're willing to accept this credential from, okay? So in this case, let's say that your company uses a certain background check agency. And if that same agency has already issued a candidate a verifiable credential for employment history in the past, then this is wonderful. You can just reuse that same credential, and this saves time for your company, saves time for you, as well as for the agency. Everyone wins here. In fact, imagine a scenario where a job application was specified with just a list of verifiable credentials, right? So apply for this job with proof of your employment history and your academic achievements. So here it's saying, show like any employment history credentials you have. We're looking for a degree. You can even specify, because you can do pattern matching with these claims. So you could say something related to engineering or computer science or security. And if you don't have the degree, that's okay. I'll take a certified ethical hacker certification or something like that that was issued by a specific vendor. We're even starting to see countries like Aruba use verifiable credentials to allow travelers to enter the country without a physical passport. So the credential selectively discloses the required information from the traveler's embarkation card, and the immigration authorities can then verify that information much quicker than the old process they were using. So this is becoming more safe for governments and then more efficient for travelers. In the U.S., TSA has begun accepting mobile driver's licenses at our airports. It's not as advanced as what they have going on in Aruba. In fact, you can only use your mobile driver's license in the state that you reside in or that it was issued in. But we're starting to see some progress here, and hopefully we can have like a federal kind of program. Credentials have made their way to the medical sector as well. So in addition to like my driver's license, my LA wallet also holds things like my COVID vaccination card. So that came in really handy when the world reopened after 2020. Everyone was asking for this proof of vaccination, and I was able to just pull out my phone and show them this in my wallet. Also, one of my colleagues, Rizelle Scarlett, anybody know Rizelle? Yeah. Rizelle, she interviewed a pharmacist who talked about how they trade medicinal drugs as part of their supply chain management. So this is to ensure that pharmacies across the world are properly stocked. And pharmacists were using these verifiable credentials to ensure that, one, the medicine that they were trading, but also, two, the pharmacists that they were trading with were indeed legitimate. Otherwise, you're just selling drugs, you know. At TBD, we're using verifiable credentials for the financial sector. So many companies are required by law to verify the identity of new customers so that they can prevent illegal activities like money laundering or fraud, right? And this is known as KYC, or Know Your Customer. So we've created a known customer credential which would allow users to present this to companies in order to meet like their compliance and their regulatory obligations, okay? So I hope by now what's bubbling in your head is, Angie, how do I keep my credentials safe? Right? So this wallet, I'm saying I have my driver's license, I have my medical records, I have my travel information, lots of stuff here, right? My employment stuff. Let's say that a bad actor did get a hold of my credential. which is not far-fetched because it's a JOT. It's simply a string of text, right? The thing is, they cannot present this credential on my behalf because the credentials are issued to those decentralized identifiers. And remember that decentralized identifiers have a public and private key pair. So if they don't have access to my private key, they cannot prove that they're the owner of that ID and therefore the holder of that verifiable credential. All right? And these private keys are typically locked away in like a key management service. But even with this, wallet apps that are holding verifiable credentials, they need to equip advanced authorization methods. For example, I use biometrics to log into my LA wallet, and that's where my VCs are. Just like I use biometric to access my credit cards and my Google Wallet, for example, right? In fact, both Google Wallet and Apple Wallet are able to hold mobile driver's licenses now. So Apple Wallet now supports 7 states, and Google supports 5 states in the US. And both of these wallets are designed with multiple layers of security, okay? As far as challenges with this technology, I don't want to sell you a pipe dream. So I think one of the biggest ones that we face right now is probably standardization and also the interoperability of these credentials, because remember, they're programmatically verified, so I want to be able to use them across multiple systems, right? But this means we all need to agree on the types and the terms that we're going to use in these claims. For example, let's say that my university issues me a credential. I went to NC State. Anybody? Wolfpack in the building? Okay. So let's say that they issue me a credential. What should the type be? Education credential? What if another university issues one and they call theirs academic credential? Somebody else calls theirs university credential. You see how I've already broken the verification system here just that quickly. So the only way that a credential can meet the specified requirements is by matching the exact wording or at least pattern matching the terms that the verifier is looking for. So this goes for the type of credentials as well as the claims that's being made within the credential. There are efforts, though, to standardize the use of verifiable credentials on a global scale. So verifiable credentials are W3C standard, right? So there's a standards body comprised of individuals from multiple companies who are working on this together. We just need companies to adopt and to adhere to those standards. All right, so that's verifiable credentials in a nutshell. I'm really excited to see more and more use cases for verifiable credentials where it'll be easy for us to transact and to verify ourselves online. In fact, I wrote a blog post just last week about a new rule that was introduced by the FTC prohibiting businesses from posting fake reviews online. Did y'all see that one? Yeah, so that's great, because I definitely rely on reviews before, making big purchases and things. However, my question was like, how will the FTC enforce this? How do they know if the review is fake or not, right? So my proposal was for businesses to embed a verifiable credential on the receipt when the person purchases something, like a QR code or something, that they then could present back to the business when they want to make a review, right? That way, customers know that this actually came from someone who purchased the product, and the businesses can show this to the FTC if they're ever audited or anything like that, okay? But yeah, I look forward to the days when we can look back and laugh at the times when we had to take a photo of our ID and upload it online to a website, or scan our passport to apply for a visa, or like do a liveness check on Zoom. Hopefully those days will be behind us soon enough. So if you want to learn more about verifiable credentials or issue some yourself, with the open source Web5 SDK, check out developer.tbd.website. With that, what questions can I answer for you all? I'm going to get a mic, and I have a volunteer here who will pass a mic to. Can I get one too? Thank you. All right. Question was over here.
Yeah, token expiration, how's that handled?
Token expiration. So when you issue a verifiable credential, one of the fields, I didn't show it here, but one of the fields, like when you had creation date, you can also specify an expiration date. So when you issue the credential, you can say this expires in 2 years or whatever you want to expire, but also you can revoke a credential. So let's say I got an employment history credential. We don't want to put an expiration date on that, right? For my job, you don't know like when I'm leaving. But if I did leave that job, they could revoke that credential. The credentials themselves are actually immutable, so you can't change them. Remember, they're JOTs, and so if you change them, then they're no longer valid. However, what you can do, there's like a little section you can put in there that says like a status list section. And so if I revoke this credential, I basically issue like a revocation credential that's kind of tied to that credential. It's a lot, but you can do it. Any other questions? Yes.
So the boot store needs to have the signing key of the issuer, I suppose. And
Who does?
the boot store.
The
That's the
boot store
delivery app.
No, the boot store should not have the signing key, right?
Then how
it should
do
only
they-
have the credential, the
Then
token itself.
how do they verify the signature of the HMAC SHA?
So you would use a cryptographic algorithm. So in that JOT, in the header section, it says like which algorithm you can use to verify this signature. And so it's just a like cryptographic thing. So I could sign it or whatever. I don't pass it over to them, but the algorithm itself could verify.
But the algorithm needs a key to compute the same hash.
Right, so that's in, let me see, in the jot.io. So that last section, hold on. Yeah. Okay, so this signature part here, you have it here. So it's kind of like a puzzle. You see where it says like your key there, your secret, your bit secret, blah, blah, blah. So something goes right there so that they could basically kind of run this cryptographic algorithm to make sure like everything matches. But you wouldn't hand over the key, no.
Well, I, as a customer, do not have the key, but the delivery app needs to have the key from the government, right?
No. They don't have the key. So you would keep your key. You as a customer can have your key. Some people have them on device. But the driver's license app, in this case, has my key, right? So they have all of my information or whatever in the credentials and everything like that. But they wouldn't pass that key around, right?
Not the private key, but the public key.
The public key, yes. You do pass the public key, yes. So they'll need the public key, and then that's how they'll be able to, like, do the puzzle or whatever. It's like cryptography. We can talk about it after, yeah. Next question.
So I'm imagining a scenario where your phone like completely dies and you need to transfer your credentials to another place securely. Can you talk about that, please?
Yeah. All right. So the question was like, if your phone dies, what do you do? How can you transfer these credentials or whatever? So that's one reason why we kind of want the credentials not just custody by a specific app. Right now, in the scenario that I described with LA Wallet, they have my credentials. I can't even like extract my credentials from them. They're basically managing the entire thing. But there are systems where you can just give a customer their JOT themselves and have them store it however they want to. That could be in a cloud, that could be on device or something that's synced across devices, things like that. So there is the ability to do that. In this case, I don't have access to my credentials. So if I was ordering, I guess, online from my desktop or something like that, I don't know how that would work if my phone was dead. I probably couldn't connect it. Yes.
In the case of your alcohol example, how does this prevent not the person who ordered the alcohol receiving the alcohol, in the sense that if I wanted to order alcohol for my younger brother who was blonde and I have brown hair, When the delivery driver comes and I present a real driver's license, he sees it's not me and refuses to deliver the alcohol. But in this case, I could order my younger brother alcohol from 1,000 miles away while having my ID on me. How do we prevent that?
Yeah, so the question is, okay, if I'm ordering for, let me make sure I got the question right. If I'm ordering for someone else, you're doing this like as a bad actor? Or
Oh, yeah, I mean, but like it's alcohol ordering. Like there
like
will be bad
your 18-year-old
actors.
brother, you're like trying to get him like
I
drunk?
don't see the alcohol stores taking this up widespread if it's going to be vulnerable to a system that driver's licenses aren't.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll tell you what happened to me in one state. So I was using DoorDash in New York, and I was trying to order alcohol from them, from a DoorDash, a restaurant or whatever. And so I was able to provide like a credential that I'm over 21, like allowing them to connect to my wallet. But that driver, this doesn't happen in New Orleans. We got drive-through liquor stores. We're not that serious about it, all right? But in New York, the guy did ask to still see my physical ID, even though I verified my age online. So I guess that might be a reason why he did that, because you're right. Like, I can buy the alcohol, I can verify that I'm over 21 before the purchase happens, but when they deliver it, how do they know that that's the same person that purchased it, right? That was your question, right? Yeah. So I guess they can verify again if they need to, you know? Yeah. The receiver. Gotcha. What other questions? Up here? Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Hi. So what's stopping the liquor store from just kind of like requesting more information than they actually need?
Nothing is stopping them from requesting more information that they need, but it works kind of like, you know, when you get a new app, when you download a new app and they start asking for permissions on your phone, and then they show you those permissions as a customer, like, oh, they want your contact list, they want your email, they want this, they want to look at your photos, blah, blah, blah. Same thing happens when someone requests a verifiable credential. So my wallet app says, hey, this is the information that business is requesting. Is it okay to share this information?
What sorts of data do you see belonging in the claims in a JOT versus being gathered via an API later?
Oh, okay. What sorts of data do I think should go in the credential itself, in the JOT, versus just like an API request later? I would say we definitely don't want to put any like PII in the credential. Like, I strongly recommend against that. Just like whatever basic, like even with that one, they could have asked for my date of birth, right? But instead they just said, is she over 21? And we were able to just do the Boolean flag. Now let's say this is not an alcohol company, but some other company that just needs to then get more information once they've verified that I'm a legitimate person or whatever. Then you can go into the flow where maybe you're requesting additional information that you want to store in your database and stuff like that. Yes.
Can you clarify how, if I send my verified credential to a sketchy verifier, what prevents them from like replaying it immediately and impersonating me?
From doing what immediately?
Replaying it somewhere else immediately and impersonating me?
Yeah, so they won't be able to do that. That's another reason why you don't want to give them your private key. If they have your private key, you're like screwed, basically. One thing about private keys that I didn't mention, let's say that someone happened to get a hold of your private key and they have your credentials. They can impersonate you, but you can rotate your private keys. And so if you know about this breach, then you can just kind of reset that private key, and so that is no longer, the other one is no longer valid. So they wouldn't be able to impersonate you in that case. But if they have your credentials, the verifier is a sketchy verifier. They have your JOT, which again, the JOT is a string. A lot of people are gonna have this JOT. It contains your public key, but not your private key, and so they won't be able to impersonate you. Okay, go ahead.
So a lot of that is a lot of the questions kind of are answering around what you identified as the primary challenge here, I think, which is the technical buy-in. So you talked a bit about some of the technical buy-in required by the issuer in terms of the driver's license example with the 13 states, obviously not being 50 states. So there's some technical buy-in there. I think that the question about the private key is also related to that because it's related to the technical buy-in by the verifier. Are they using the SDK as well? Is that how they're verifying? And what are the processes there for them to get that technical buy-in and the verification stuff?
Okay, so we definitely have a chicken and egg problem happening right now. Like a lot of governments really want to have the mobile driver's license with these credentials, but then you need businesses to be able to accept them. My state, I think, was one of the best. This is one thing we did right, child. I feel like we were a model use case for this. So my government, they didn't create it themselves. They actually partnered with a private company who implemented everything, the mobile driver's license app, but then we coupled that with laws and stuff as well. And so we have laws that says that the businesses must accept these verifiable credentials, the mobile driver's license app. We have laws that say that the police cannot take my phone when I show them my ID. You don't want to just hand the police your phone because then they can search through it, right? And so we have laws like a no-touch law that says you can see it, you can even scan it, but you can't touch it, and things like that. We are seeing companies like Apple and Google, they're really jumping in this really hard. I'm watching this space very carefully because they're now pushing on the governments and saying, hey, we'll help you develop it, because I think they think this would be great for their apps, their wallet apps, right? So think about your Apple Wallet app. You keep your concert tickets, your flight passes, and things like that. You can keep all of these sorts of credentials in there as well. And so hopefully with their push, we'll start to see like more adoption.
And just a quick follow-up. So given that is like a really holistic approach needed, what are some organizations or the organization that is lobbying for that effort and trying to bring the right method?
Yeah, so it's W3C. So what's W3C stand for? Web Wide Consortium, something like that. Yeah, so W3C is like, for those who don't know, this is like the body that governs the internet itself. This is their standard, and so they're pushing that, in those standards bodies are pushing as well. We just did a hackathon so California held a hackathon for use cases with their mobile driver's license, which they just launched a couple of months ago. We actually won an award for the best privacy preserving technology. So the mobile driver's license, again, is more than just the verifiable credential part, but we really tapped into that to show like how businesses could accept these mobile driver's licenses, even in person, like whether online or in person, right? So we don't want it to be where I have to, in person, have my physical ID on me. So I was able to like integrate that. So TBD that I work for is part of Block, which was known as Square, Cash App, all of that stuff. And so we have Square sellers. Y'all see the little cash registers when y'all buy your coffee and stuff. We want them to be able, those little mom and pop shops and stuff like that, to be able to accept credentials as well.